Get up, everybody, get off your ass. We got to do something, and we got to do it fast, cause the people are hungry, starving, and the fuel is low. Don't wait for Jesus. He ain't coming.
Hey, and thank you, Kev Mo, for another great introduction to this week's Live from the Heartland, also known as Heartland at Home. We're welcoming in Earth Month. We're welcoming all you Earthlings, be you friends, neighbors, family, sisters, brothers, essentially all you citizens of the world. We're here for you with another edition of Heartland at Home, number 46, for the week of April 3rd. Today, we are very glad to have a couple of wonderful guests. We're going to have Dave Kraft, an old pal from the Nuclear Energy Information Service. And we also have the global artist, Saraswathi Ranganathan, and she and Dave will be coming up shortly. And before that, we're going to give you a little bit of our very popular banter. I'm here with Katie Hogan. Good morning to you, Katie.
Michael, let them be the judge of that. Yeah, good morning, Michael. My good news this week, as we've been doing for a while, is that I've, synced into a good practice of combining meditation and Pilates every morning.
Whoa.
And yeah, so that's helping.
Where do you go for Pilates?
I go online with our good friend Marilyn Katz, who's been doing a free class every morning for a year now.
Any guys in that class yet?
Nobody that shows their face.
I'm thinking about it.
It's usually anywhere from 25 to 35, mostly women, every morning. It's pretty impressive.
That's all the more reason I'd like to join up.
What's your good news, Michael?
I'm going to say workouts, writing, and reading. I got in some good workouts this week at McGaw YMCA. I did some writing for the book you and I are working on about the Heartland Cafe. And I'm reading a book that was recommended to me by a number of people around here called The Night Watchman by Louise Erdrich.
Yeah, that's great.
How about a little information on some local happenings here in our neighborhood, Katie?
Yeah, so locally, this is kind of interesting. The Chicago Monuments Project is coming to our neighborhood, April 19th, 7 p.m. What that is the effort to check out, I think, a total of 41 public monuments. They're being assessed, is the word they're using as to whether or not they're acceptable or present issues for parts of our population. The plaque in question marks the Indian boundary line in Rogers Park, and it's at Clark and Jarvis and Rogers. I forget, it's on a building. So if you want to check that out, I think it's going to be an interesting conversation, and it will be public, hosted by the Rogers Park and West Ridge Historical Society, again on April 19th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. Look for details at the Historical Society website. Second thing that happened just this past week is the Chicago City Council passed a resolution calling for hearings for a bold financial pilot for a guaranteed basic income. It's a $50 million investment proposed, and it would make Chicago home to the largest publicly funded guaranteed income program. Of course, it is co-sponsored by our own Alderman Maria Hadden. Very interesting. She already got some blowback on the website from people who assume that people are just it turns folks into, lazy welfare queens and kings. Same old.
To be a king.
I wouldn't mind a little guaranteed income myself. I haven't even gotten the last two of those payments that everybody's so happy to get appearing in there.
Well, speaking of income, our new president is proposing a $2 trillion jobs and infrastructure bill. What would that include? And will the moderate Democrats in the House and the Senate be up for it? And speaking of all this, it's really time to get moving on House and Senate races for 2022. It could get really rough. We really need to devote a lot of time to winning some of these races to keep our majority in the House and hopefully expand the majority in the Senate.
I'm sure that many of you, like I did, had a very full inbox in your email this week when the first quarter fundraising deadline passed of March 31st. What Michael is speaking to is in fact really important. The midterm races, when one is holding, when a party is holding the presidential and the majority in the Senate, it's usually rough on that party. So we're going to have to work double hard to maintain the wins that happened in 2 years ago, like Lauren Underwood and Sean Casten in our neck of the woods. Those people need our support to win back their seats, plus to make some inroads. It'd be nice to have an extra senator or two by this time 2 years from now. So in addition to the jobs and infrastructure bill, which is going to be, it's going to be debated. But in addition to that is the very important, I think more important, State House, I'm sorry, the bill that's moving from the House to the Senate called Bill for the People. It is all about protecting our right to vote and not making it more difficult. So it stands as a federal reaction to the awful tendencies happening in House and small legislatures, state legislatures all across the country, where Republicans are trying to make it more difficult for people to vote. It's easy to get a gun, hard to vote. That's the latest refrain in America.
So this is called Senate Bill 1 for the People?
Right, and people are being encouraged to call your senators and your Congress people. It's up to the Senate next. The Congress has already passed it. So calling Duckworth and Durbin, who of course are for it. But if you're in another state, please make calls for this Senate Bill 1 for the People Act.
Okay, and down there on the border, things go on with people coming out of Central America because life there is cruel and hard and dangerous. So why are people coming? Well, the former ambassador to Mexico, who was appointed by Trump, had a piece in the New York Times on Thursday that basically said the biggest factor driving such flows has gone largely unaddressed: the willingness and ability of American employers to hire untold millions of unauthorized immigrants. Most people who come here for the same reason they've always come for, and that is to get work, to grow their families and to have a better deal in life. We are going to have some reports coming from people real active down in El Paso and Ciudad Juarez. Stay tuned for that. This is an ongoing situation that really has to do a lot with our own foreign policy over many years in Central America. We created the conditions that have led to all these people trying to come here and work.
Yeah, that pretty much says it. It's a very complicated issue. Clearly, getting rid of the former president did not solve that problem on the border. And we've got a lot of unaccompanied kids, some thousands of them currently housed in not good conditions down there. So we will, as you say, Michael, we'll keep an eye on that. What about the Amazon union vote, which we've been talking about?
Well, the voting is over and the votes are now being counted. There'll be a lot of challenges. It'll take a little time. The National Labor Relations Board is counting the votes, and we will keep you posted on this historic vote. If there is a victory, I'm sure that there will be a lot more union organizing attempts in the South. I've heard reports that there are a number of successful union votes in the South, but not at great big plants. So we will see. We're watching this Amazon vote very carefully.
Yeah. And just to keep up the thrum of getting COVID vaccines, clearly the Cook County is doing a better job than the city of Chicago right now. God knows why. Ask the mayor, I guess. But the Cook County toll-free number is 833-308-1988. And that is the number that people are getting an awful lot of success, finding success, getting appointments. In addition, the Block Club has an excellent resource for vaccine getting. Just go to blockclubchicago.org. How you can get vaccinated, that page. Tom Clark wanted to let us know to share the story of a 13-year-old in Evanston who has begun the Illinois vaccine, IL vaccine, it's called, helping folks get appointments. It was basically another one of those. He's a kid, his grandparents and other older relatives couldn't get it, and he started helping, and he's now helped hundreds of folks get appointments.
Katie, a couple of weeks ago, we had Peg Dublin on the show talking about the vaccine brigade,
right.
A really heroic effort by a number of people. You got involved with the vaccine brigade last week. You did some work in the 22nd Ward. How about sharing information on how this work is going?
Well, it's great. It was a total honor. And as Peg told us when we interviewed her 2 weeks ago, it speaks to the fact that she got so many volunteers immediately signing up. It speaks to all of our need to help out and need to give of our energy. And for those of us who just finally got are completely vaccinated, we feel a little more comfortable being able to volunteer. So yeah, down in the 22nd Ward, Alderman Michael Rodriguez, who is a friend from the Chewy campaign of 5-6 years ago, he is alderman down there, had a great, well-organized event, and his putting us to work was really well done as well. Each one of these events needs many volunteers, people who can sign folks up, people who can stand in line and show people the way, people who can clean off chairs after folks have sat in them and gotten their vaccine. There's plenty of work to be done. So I understand that the 48th Ward is about to have their day Tuesday, April 6th. So any seniors who have not yet gotten vaccinated listening to this show, call Alderman Osterman's office. I believe that they are working with Jewel to get their shots, the same as the 22nd Ward did. And I know that the 49th Ward is going to have another vaccine moment upcoming, also using Jewel. City of Chicago is really not serving us well in this vaccine moment.
Well, we'll get some more details on that, because that's sorry to hear, and I'll ask you to explain it, but let's do that next week.
Sure. Just to follow up on the Cook County Jail thing, we did announce the wonderful news that 1,000 people were released off of Sheila Betty's and others' lawsuit for folks who had not been given a trial date and who are not nonviolent criminal offenses. This week, the newest news is that activists want a oversight, an investigative, an independent investigative body checking out what's happening as far as prisoners and COVID. I know Tom Dart, the sheriff, was working really hard at the start of this to keep people safe. He himself had the virus for a while. So we're going to keep our eye out on what's happening to the prison population.
Okay, let's take a little spin around the world and follow up on some of the things we've been mentioning regularly. In Myanmar, hundreds are dead. There's been no let up from the brave demonstrators coming out into the streets, and apparently there's no let up by the military on killing them. One thing of note is that Myanmar has been able to keep the ethnic groups, many in their country, divided by pitting them against each other. And some of these are guerrilla groups. The students have made links to these groups, and in addition to that, these guerrilla groups are starting to merge together. So we will keep you posted on that. And down in Brazil, there is quite a crisis around the COVID. The virus is running rampant. And there is starting to be considerable speculation about the 2022 presidential race. As many of you might have read, Bolsonaro, the right-wing president, has fired his defense minister. In response to that, the heads of the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force resigned in speculation that he is going to appoint loyalists before the election. And on that note, the Supreme Court in Brazil, a certain judge has invalidated the conviction of former President Lula's convictions, making it very likely that Bolsonaro will again face Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in the 2022 presidential race.
We know at least one person, our erstwhile correspondent from Brazil, who's going to be happy to cover that particular race. I think that what we're going to do now is go to our first guest, if that's okay with folks.
Before that, we're going to talk to Luis.
Well,
you want to wait?
Yeah, there's a question for you in chat, Michael.
I didn't know how to use that yet, but I'm going to learn. Okay, there is a question in chat. Okay, so let's go with our first guest, Kate.
Okay, we'll be right back after a musical break with David Kraft of NEIS. Stay tuned to Live from the Heartland, Heartland at Home on WLUW.
Soy el alebrije, como un alebrije, no soy cosa muy sencilla, tengo alas de polilla para subir hasta el cielo, soy corazón de armadillo.
All right, welcome Dave Kraft, nice to see you.
Thank you, it's good to see you guys again too, it's been a long time.
It has, and given that the many times that you have been on this show, either on the Heartland stage, going back that far, or even in the studio, when we moved to the studio, it's long since time to have you back in this crazy time. You've been at your gig an awfully long time, and it may or may not be a lonely vigil that you keep, but you've been alerting us all to the nuclear power from the start. You started by letting us all know about the nuclear power plants surrounding the Chicago area, to keeping an eye on global disasters such as Fukushima. What causes the greatest concern now that you're dealing with from NEIS point of view?
In a strange way, old age, my own and the organization's. As you pointed out, Katie, we've been at this a long time. As it turns out, in June this year, NEIS, Nuclear Energy Information Service, turns 40. And I was doing this 2 years before that. What concerns me, though, at least on this particular issue, is that not just NEIS in Illinois, but nationwide, there's so many other competing issues that we haven't seen a rejuvenation of people, expertise, new folks coming in, activists, of a younger sort. So this has become, it's sort of, in many cases, been relegated to an old fogies issue. It's not as hip, not as current as pipelines or, environmental justice, for example, or even climate change. Although all of those issues do have some basis in the work we're doing. So that's something that worries me, is that it's just not the glam issue that gets the attention it really deserves, because when you come down to it, we have 2, maybe 3 literally slate wiping, planet destroying possibilities for Earth. We have the climate disruption that's going on. We have nuclear, either in the form of weapons or waste or power. And I suppose you could add to it now pandemic, which is related to the first issue.
Yeah.
Yet it doesn't quite, that second issue, the nuclear issue, just doesn't get the attention, both in terms of weapons and in terms of nuclear power. So that really worries me.
Dave, there was a congressional briefing this past week in D.C. Regarding evidence-based objections to nuclear power. Can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, this is the third time that our organization has collaborated with others back east who were the prime instigators for it, to conduct briefings for the staff and the principals of the delegations and get them up to steam on what's important, what are the current issues. And this go round, the third one, focused on the fact that number one, the nuclear age is over. Just, you got to get over it. It ain't coming back no matter what you do. It's dead. And now we're entering what's called the age of decommissioning, which is the process of what do you do with all these hundreds of reactors worldwide when their lifespan is over. They're all radioactively contaminated. You know, they're 9-story buildings. What do you do with it? So decommissioning is the process of tearing that down to the ground, cleaning up the radioactive residue, and then hauling the waste away somewhere else. So that's the age we are really entering. And that was one of the prime pieces in the congressional briefing, because our Congress people are clueless. There's such turnover in the staffs that they don't keep up on this the way we do, that the nuclear industry just steamrollers them with their lobbyists and their money. So decommissioning is one issue. Second issue is that nuclear power, both locally, nationally, internationally, constitutes nuclear colonialism. It's an environmental justice issue, much in the same way that pipelines are and coal plants are, because the waste gets dumped on poor people, indigenous people all over the planet. Our nuclear electricity here in Illinois, which everybody boasts about, 40 to 50% of our electricity is nuclear. Nobody talks about the fact, where does the uranium come from? Well, it comes from the Diné lands in New Mexico, the Lakota lands in Colorado and South Dakota that are contaminated, the Cree lands in Canada, which are contaminated, the Aboriginal lands in Australia that are contaminated. Are these people somehow worth less than us? So nobody brings that to the forefront, and that's why this is an environmental issue. And we will be doing we actually did a program on this last month, which is online, and I can forward the link to you. You can put it in your chats. But it's the fact that we have to get across to Congress that if you're going to talk the environmental justice issue on coal, on fossil fuels, on pipelines, you sure as hell better include nuclear in that, because that's been around a lot longer. And if you don't believe me, ask the next Bikini Islander you encounter. The third issue is, of course, nuclear power is just a farce in being offered as a solution to the climate disruption. Everybody points out the fact that nuke plants don't produce carbon dioxide in the process of cranking out electrons. That's true, but we don't produce carbon dioxide if we hold our breath. That's equally true. It's just equally dumb. Amory Lovins, the legendary energy expert, been around 45 years, internationally respected, just did a blistering account of why nuclear power is ill-suited to handle the climate disruption piece. And he went even a step further to point out that all these new whiz-bang reactors that Bill Gates and folks like that are championing are nonsense. They don't give you any added protection. In fact, the Union of Concerned Scientists just released a report 2 weeks ago on this, saying you're not getting any more protection. It's going to be more costly. They have their own unique design problems. So it's just a sham. It's a shell game, to get more money out of the government's R&D budgets. So those are the big issues in the congressional briefing. And we know for a fact that a lot of the staffers who were showing up were first timers, because we stay in touch with the staffs both here in Illinois and in other states. Other people do that too. So there's a constant turnover of the knowledge base that we have to keep up on.
That's such a good point that you're making. And you're absolutely right to point out activists, ongoing activists, are the only ones who maintain that kind of contact, that long-term contact with staff of Congress people over years. There are two things that you sent out in the last week that actually act as fundraisers for NEIS. I wanted you to mention them, what Watching Power Struggle is about, and how buying your tickets for that gives you something, and also to follow up also on the community solar farm, what that is.
Right. Okay. Yes. Today is April 1st, at least that's the day we're taping this. And this is not a joke. We do have two fundraisers in the work for what we call Earth Month. And I want to touch base on Earth Day at the end of our talk here today. But we have partnered with an independent documentarian who has put together this documentary of how they closed the Vermont Yankee nuclear plant. So it's an absolute hoot. It's a primer on real nuts and bolts, grassroots, in your face organizing from start to finish. It's about 90 minutes long. And the filmmaker has put this online and offered us an opportunity to use that as a fundraiser. So we're charging, there's a ticket price of $12. 50% goes to NEIS, 50% goes to the filmmaker. So it's a win-win for everybody. But if there's anyone here who really, if you want to see, grassroots organizing from the ground up to a successful outcome, this is the film to see. It's really a well put together piece. So that's the first one.
Can you get us a clip of it? Is there a little teaser?
Yes, there is.
Good. We'll put it with the show.
Okay, sure. The second one you mentioned that we're doing is partnering with an old buddy of ours, Mike Wisniewski. Mike and his wife, as you guys know, were part of the collusion team that put on Earth Day 90 Chicago with Heartland Cafe, NEIS, and a ragtag bunch of others back in the day. Well, now Mike is actually doing work promoting solar community solar farms. So it's a process of hooking up folks who otherwise would not be able to participate in solar. Those of you who are apartment dwellers, you don't have your own home, you're in a shaded area that you can't put up panels, you don't have the money to put up panels, you can actually buy into a program which will create solar farms in Illinois, and you will be using electricity that they guarantee will be 20% less than what ComEd charges you. So we are partnering with Mike, and Mike's team is giving NEIS a bonus for anyone who signs up using the link and the contacts that we provide. So those are the two things we're doing throughout April. That offer goes with Mike until May 15th. And you can actually watch the movie that I mentioned, the Power Struggle movie, anytime in April. When you get your ticket, you'll have 3 days to see the film, and you can, do whatever you want, bring people over, make it a party, and that'll go until the end of April, April 30th.
Dave, you mentioned Earth Day. Just real quickly, a favorite remembrance. I actually was there in 1990. I came home with 10 trees, and they're all growing in the backyard, and I think they're problematic for solar energy now. Yep. So I'll keep you posted on that and reach out to you about getting solar. And if you have one really good memory from Earth Day, tell us.
Talk about the power of organizing. I wrote a little bit about this last year for the 50th anniversary, but the fact that in, what do we do, Mike, 6 months, 5 months, a bunch of nobodies who knew nothing about putting on enormous events somehow managed to get the city of Chicago to give its crown jewel for a location in Lincoln Park, Chicago, on the first 80-degree Sunday of 1990. And Jim Slama and a bunch of other folks somehow managed to raise $250,000 to put the event on. That is just, it blows my mind even thinking about it now. But you were a part of that, you and Katie, Mike, so many other people, Paul Miller, who's off in New Jersey now, Jim Slama, who's here doing Family Farmed.
And the wonderful, the inestimable Helen Doria.
Helen Doria, your hostess supreme. That's how we bumped into her.
Well, we're running out of time with you. I guess I want to just ask two final questions. Sure. One is, what do you most wish your allies in clean energy would do more of? It sounds to me like one of them is recruit younger people to the movement, but what do you most wish all of us would do more of?
Okay, in a general way, we want to mention, we have to impress this point that we can't nuke the climate. So we have to oppose every measure that attempts to hold up nuclear power as a climate remedy. That is very concrete. It's happening in the Biden budget at this point. We have to push back on that, and we have to stop it, because every time you have a nuclear plant operating, you're not operating solar or wind or geothermal, because it sucks up the market capacity. So that's really a prime issue right now. And the second is, don't forget, this is an environmental justice issue. So we have to press that point home.
And finally, darling, thank you for joining us. And what ways do you believe that we should not return to normal after we all get vaccinated and we're on the other side of this crisis?
Yeah, that's a toughie. I'm almost more inclined to point out that what we're doing right now is an example of what should continue. The fact that we have greater access using Zoom, for example, or some of the other platforms that get us reach that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Absolutely.
But what should we not go back to? Being polite. I mean, we are Midwesterners. We take bullshit from everybody all the time and swallow and smile. And we've just got to get a lot tougher than even AOC and Bernie and all the others have been so far, and really push the agenda that's going to turn this place around. Because, you know, the capitalist system that brought us to this mess is not going to be the one that's going to bail us out of it.
Very good.
Dave Kraft, God love you. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Good to
brother.
see you.
Look up NEIS, folks. And
Nuclear Energy Information Service.
all right.
We'll send you the links and the clips.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Over and out, brother.
Stay well. Happy Earth Day.
And we are back, welcoming our second guest, Saraswathi Ranganathan. Thank you for putting up with my
No, you said it right, Katie. You got it right.
Okay,
Awesome.
good.
I love it.
What I'm most happy to tell you that since we had you on the show 3 years ago, I actually visited India.
Really?
I
Which
did.
part of India did you go to? That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was so fantastic. And it was fall before, a year ago fall before the COVID hit. So I was very, very lucky.
Got to go, yeah.
Yeah. And now, of course, I want to go back because the visa is good for 10 years and it was hard enough to get. So I want to use it again.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yes,
You are,
pretty soon, I'm sure.
You are an amazing person, artist. You are a Veena artist. You taught us last time we had you the difference between a sitar and a Veena.
Yeah, thank you.
People can see in front of you there. But you are called a cross-cultural ambassador. How's that going?
Yeah. Well, it's been ever since I started playing the Veena. I can start from whenever I started playing the Veena. I've had influences from my mom, from my grandmom. It's from a lineage of musicians that I come from. So, and then they have actually been very open to bringing people of different backgrounds together. I think that's where I get it from. And also my own, after my move here to the US, my own practical personal crises and experiences have furthered that mission of one stage, one music community, and of bringing people from different cultural backgrounds and different musical genres together so that we send a message across of less fear, less hate, more love, so we can all live as one family. So that's sort of been my life mission and mantra. So that's going well. I'm able to do it through, I'm glad I'm able to be a vehicle for something that brings people together, sharing a positive message. And here I want to tell you the intent of the traditional music that I play, which is called Carnatic music from Southern India. The intent of
Say that name again of the type
Carnatic.
of
Carnatic music, that's the form of ancient music from Southern India. That's what is traditionally played on the Veena. So some of the sounds, so the fundamental concept of Carnatic music is called raga. So what raga is so that's just technically a set of notes, but it has the ability to convey emotions and moods. That's the purpose of a raga. For example, so if you can observe that the sound of this is sort of maybe pensive or probably something more. So people usually give me words like, this makes me worry or stressed or sad. So those are some of the sounds here.
I would think somebody would say it's meditative.
And meditative, some people say that too.
Lynn was very intent on us sharing the unique honors that you have received, specifically here in Chicago. Can you tell us about your what your mission resulted in? That you, I think, in the World Music Fest in Chicago, you were honored. Oh no, it was in the Chicago Humanities Festival. Sorry,
Chicago Music Awards.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that. I wanted to finish this raga thing and how it's universal. So, for example,
sorry for interrupting.
No, that's okay. That's great. You actually led me well into the next question, which is nice. So this, you just interpreted the mood as meditative, but you had no clue about what a raga is, what Carnatic music is, but you actually were able to interpret what I played. So that's what I'm trying to say, that raga music can speak if we allow the sounds of the raga music to permeate us. The raga music can speak. So that's my intent, to get that emotion and mood right across, because these emotions are common across cultures, being meditative, being happy. So that's a happy mood. So people can easily relate to these types of things. So that's what I keep trying to do. It's my constant endeavor to reach across cultures through sounds of raga, which led you to the next question, probably about this special honorable honor that I got from Chicago Music Awards. It's for my cross-cultural exchange work and world music work. So I founded a band about 10 or 11 years ago. In addition to, of course, me representing just solo Veena concerts, I have founded a band. It's called Surabhi Ensemble. And so my mission is just that: less fear, less hate, more love, so we can all live as one family. And so what that exactly means is, when we see people from different backgrounds, it's not always a welcoming feel that we get deep inside. Oh, maybe this is different. Why are they so different? Maybe some people are scared. And a lot of times we're scared because we don't know. We're not aware of the different cultures, or how they dress, or how they speak, or what kind of music they play, what language they talk. So all of this figures in our performances. So we give them sort of, I tell them about a small word like namaste, for example, which just means like the goodness in me is honoring the goodness in you. That's all it means. Or, for example, marhaba in Arabic is hello, or how you say vanakkam in Tamil. So these are some of the things that we do along with the performances, and then get them familiar with some of the sounds of different genres of music as well. And then I always try to wear a sari, so that represents sort of some of the cultural background that I'm from, so they're familiar with what it is. But yet I try to bring in a contemporary context to all of this. So saying this is joyful, this is meditative, we can de-stress with it. So that's the point of, so when people get familiar, then they start to at least accept the difference, at least accept, and at best they embrace it. And the best part is they can talk to this about their families and friends and say, hey, look, I saw something like this and it's really nice. So it kind of pass it forward type of thing, right from the children to adults. That's what I try to do.
Let me ask you about perhaps the last time that you toured. Would that have been the Global Peace Tour in 2019? How about telling us about that and then play us a tune?
Yeah, sure. So we embarked on this idea of taking our mission globally. So we were able to do that with grants from Chicago DKs and also with award from Logan Foundation.
Oh.
So we went around Hanoi in Vietnam. We did a lot of presentations to schools and cultural centers and also to immigrant children in Vietnam. Then we went to Spain, Portugal, and we went to Senegal. It was beautiful. And so everywhere we were able to interact and play with local indigenous musicians. And we were able to come up with music, original music. So it was a wonderful experience. That was our first peace tour. Our second one was a cultural exchange tour last year. Thankfully, just before the pandemic started, we went to Oaxaca and Huahuapan in Mexico. So that was a wonderful experience. We were able to create some music with some indigenous Oaxacan musicians. We went to orphanages. So, and then we did some street festivals. These are some, so it's more about interacting with people on when we travel deeper, that's what happens. We interact with the local people and absorb some of their cultures, and they get to interact with us and get to know diverse cultures from around the world. Because ours, we have flamenco, we have Makam music, and then we have tabla, we have some Indian rhythm, and then we have Carnatic music, ragas. So all of this thrown in with Oaxacan indigenous songs. So it was fun. I can play a little bit of, on the veena, I can play a little bit of a bhajan, which is a Southern Indian sort of a tune that most people can relate to. So let's see. So that one was an improvisation of a raga before I play the bhajan. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Saraswathi.
Very nice.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think on your website, I actually heard you. We should tell people your website is full of great music, and there's also quite a bit on YouTube. So
yes,
look at our Facebook page to get the correct spelling of Saraswathi Ranganathan to look and hear all her good music. But I think I heard you playing on the Veena reggae. Am I right?
yeah. Yeah,
that's so cool. That was so cool. We've run out of time. So one last question we're asking all our guests right now is finally, what ways would you like us not to return to normal after this COVID time? What have we learned that we should not go back to? Any ideas?
Oh, yes. Personally, yeah. Engage yourself more in the arts, because that's one of the things that I find that people have been doing during the pandemic. Where would we deal with all our stress without the arts? So people have turned more towards the arts. So please continue the focus on valuing the aspects of life that are not tangible, like hugging our people, listening to and encouraging independent artists, supporting your local businesses. So I would like for people to continue to do that.
Beautiful.
And realize that artists contribute. Now, realize a little bit more the importance of art and artists in the wholesome development of our community and society.
Thank you so much. Here's to seeing you in person next.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie.
Peace and blessings.
Me and my babe, we fuss and fight. I turn around, man, you know that everything loud, it's got to be all right. I love my baby. You know it's true. Ain't nobody's business what we do.
Well, we're back with more live from the Heartland, and it was so good to hear that music. We're used to hearing a lot of music over and over, but I don't hear a lot of Indian music, and with little reggae undertones, it was great. And now we're going to take great pleasure in sharing with our viewers and our listeners that we have had the honor for months now for Luis Mejia, a student at Loyola, to be our intern, sometimes co-host and commentator. He does a wonderful show called The Modern Mexican on Fridays on WLUW. And on other days, besides going to class, he's helping us. So good morning to you, Luis. And how about giving us a little report on the aftermath of Loyola's loss in the big game? And what else is going on over there at Loyola?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Well, first of all, considering the game and everything going on, we lost against Oregon State on the Sweet 16th game, which, I'm a senior now at Loyola, and I was here whenever we made it to the Final Four, about three and a bit years ago. So this comes as a really interesting bookend, if you will. Sure, a little disappointing to not see the school go as far as it did last time, but still very, very exciting to have that experience. Maybe a little dampened considering we're not able to all celebrate together as a community and as a university, right?
Speaking
although
of,
you have probably
you shared with us how the celebrating took place. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So for all of you that are around the area, around Loyola, whenever the Ramblers won their second game, there was a multitude celebrating this victory. So a crowd of students went out onto Sheridan and right in front of the school, right in front of the Target, and started crowding around. A lot of them without masks. Celebrating, drinking on the street, taking over the road. which I will say was a little problematic, not just because of COVID concerns, but we had very similar behavior happen over the summer with our Streets LUC, our Black Lives Matter protest group here on campus, do the same, gather around the street to protest for what's important with us. And there, I was even there for some of my classmates being arrested, whereas here, during these celebrations, the celebratory excitement, police officers were high-fiving with the people celebrating the victory of the Loyola Ramblers. And naturally, really the only difference between these two moments was that indeed the students arrested were Black students, as opposed to the white students high-fiving the police officers.
Wow.
In these celebrations. So it's a mix of excitement, a mix of school spirit. It's always fun to have, but a mix of a little bit of the hypocrisy that is coming out from not just the school, but even the community as well.
That's
so
right.
It's a really interesting tightrope balancing act to follow. It
Luis,
really is.
I mean, that's a you just said it all about that. The hypocrisy is
hypocrisy, good word.
But how has it been in general living on campus for this very strange year when, I don't know what percentage of your fellow students were at home, whereas you and maybe many other students who are here on an international visa had nowhere to go but campus. Talk about that experience a little bit.
Yeah, first of all, I'm living in an apartment, like just a couple blocks away from campus, because up until just this past 6 months, no one was actually on campus at all. Every single class for the last year has been entirely virtual, which, of course, everyone's upset about that. You're not having the university experience we signed up for. Right. Which of course it's disappointing, especially for students in my grade who were about to graduate. Right, we spent our entire senior year locked up in our homes, and like you said, indeed, international students like myself, we couldn't really go back home. We had no choice but to stay here and continue living in our just small isolation, really. But it's rough. It's difficult. But it's also difficult to say it's been difficult just because I know there's so many other people going through way worse rather than me just having a ball here in my apartment and going to class in my bed. That is always a bit of a plus. But I can tell you, students are burnt out, not just with virtual schooling, but just with the state of the world right now. Add to it the election, add to it COVID, add to it all these systemic issues going around the world and the country. Students are very burned out.
And if we have, with the little time we have left, you are about to go home to Veracruz in the next few months. How are you preparing for that, or how are you thinking about that? And are your folks just dying to see you back at home? They are.
Yeah. So I'm from Mexico, from Veracruz, Mexico. Beautiful, beautiful coast town. I'm just mostly preparing by packing and making sure that I can take back all the instruments I purchased during this pandemic, which may include 2 accordions and a banjo, among others. So having to figure out how to lug those back home will be big. But the Mexico vaccine rollout, the COVID-19 vaccine rollout has been really terrible. It's been genuinely not good. It's the government is not handling the vaccine rollout very well. And that's why I was lucky enough actually to receive my first dose of the COVID vaccine about 20 days ago. My next one is due just within the next week. So I'll make sure to come back to my country and fully vaccinated so I can see my family, which I haven't seen them for over a year now. So it'll be good to enjoy some of the warmth of the Mexico sun.
Luis, will you still be doing your modern Mexican radio show from Veracruz?
I think I will. And being in Veracruz will give me even closer direct access to Mexican artists like I feature on my show, The Modern Mexican. So you prepare to hear way more from The Modern Mexican. Absolutely.
Right on.
Absolutely.
So why don't you finish out the show with us since we are running out of time? Michael, you got any sports news?
I got a little bit of quick news. Baseball season has arrived, and with it, a cancellation of the Mets' first game because of COVID. March Madness is about over. On Monday, there'll be the final game Monday night. The Tokyo Olympics are on. And regarding voting rights in baseball, the head of the Players Association has proposed that the All-Star game get moved from Atlanta to another state that does not have repressive voting laws. The president has backed this up. So stay tuned and we'll see what's happening. And Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, a bunch of other corporations down there, all take note that people are watching. And Delta did come out with a statement. We'll see what Coke does. One little quick thing, I will be opening my Prairie Dancer Studio Gallery tomorrow on Sunday at 1509 West Lunch. Stop by, look at the photos, have a little chat, wear your mask. I've had my 2 shots.
Okay, our closing music is Our World by Twin Peaks. We thank you for tuning in on WLUW every week at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. And also you can visit us at youtube.com/Heartland Media, cablecast all week long on CAN TV. Thanks especially to Tom Clark, our editor, engineer, co-host person who is on sabbatical for a moment. And thanks especially also to Luis for joining us on the show today, as well as being the background guy forever. And our marvelous music producer, Lynn Orman Weiss. We ask you to do good in the world.
The world needs all the good that we do.
All
power to the people.
Suspect on another day. I was out